This is Coach Lee, and you're listening to The Door Report.
Number 5? How are we feeling so far?
Feeling great.
Feeling great?
Feeling great that I'm here with you.
Oh, feeling great. We're here with you. We appreciate you. We appreciate you.
We must stop the terror. I call upon all nations to do everything they can to stop these terrorist killers. Thank you. Now watch this drive.
Welcome back into The Door Report, and welcome into episode 327 on a lovely Tuesday evening, August 5th, 2025. I am Will Byrum, joined as always by my co-host, Trevor Hulan, aka Hack Squat Jim Duggan, and our head senior producer, Phoebe, made an appearance early stretching. We also have our assistant junior producer, Miller, behind the screen. He's going to help us out today with timestamps. A long requested thing from listeners, timestamps in the description of our podcast. I know we have a tendency to go long, about an hour and a half. Nothing's going to change with that as we go through the roster preview in episode 327. But shout out to Miller behind the screen, producing over there. He's given a thumbs up. Just had to give him a shout out early.
Hashtag thanks, Miller.
Hashtag thanks, Miller. But here at the Door Report, we are presented by 615 Collectibles. If you're into sports cards or sports memorabilia, check out 615 Collectibles on eBay. Items include NFL team packs, graded cards, individual cards, and more. Shipping is always fast and free. We also have a new affiliate marketing deal. I'm not sure exactly how to phrase it through On3, but that is Rhoback Activewear. There's only one way to describe Rhoback: best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Rhoback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Rhoback has released so many items within their newly licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. With novel polo designs and clean hoodie and quarter zip designs for some of your favorite schools, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else on the market is pairing these levels of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Rhoback's everyday shorts or their Delta performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. They are both super comfortable, have an elastic waistband and great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice short look, but the comfort for a day on the move. Rhoback has also been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, past and present, and are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. You can use code VAN20, that is VAN20, no spaces, on Rhoback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week. That's spelled Rhoback, RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with code VAN20. Again, that is VAN20. Shout out to Rhoback. They just dropped a new Vanderbilt collection that includes a very nice looking quarter zip as well as some good looking golf polos. So check out Rhoback.
We have made it to where now we have a Rhoback ad. Is there ever been a podcast / site that has ascended in such a monumental way as TDR?
Just ground up grassroots, baby.
TDR just straight rocket ship. We are the rocket ship that Nick Zeppos promised to build James Franklin. He was prophesying about TDR.
He truly was. The revolution is currently being televised in front of your eyes, in case you were wondering.
TVs.
Trevor has been, well, I first want to say today's episode is going to be the first part of our Vanderbilt 2025 roster preview, and we are going to start on the defensive side of the ball. So Trevor has been at all 6 days of fall camp so far. I've been at 50%. I've been at 3 of the 6 days of fall camp, as much as I possibly could, including today, which was the first day of full pads. Got to learn a lot about this roster, and me and Trevor are going to have some great insights throughout our roster preview because of that. So shout out to Vanderbilt Comms for giving us the opportunity to be there.
Yes, absolutely. They've been very kind to us.
But Trevor, a lot to get to. I want to start in the intro. Have you had a chance to watch the Any Given Saturday documentary on Netflix?
I'm going to watch it as soon as this podcast is over. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to start it. I tweeted out, apparently I made a cameo. I was in the crowd shot for whenever they were recording the Auburn game. And so there's Clark Lee. And then right to the left is me and my big number 73 Chuck Clark jersey.
Chuck.
Repping the boy. But yeah, I have not watched any episodes. I do know that I make a cameo though.
Awesome.
Apparently, like your voice is in it. Did you see that on the board?
No.
Somebody was like, your voice is in it.
I've got I don't know, Miller, what are you thumbs downing? It's not me, Miller says. Miller has apparently had the opportunity to watch any given Saturday. I have not. Trevor has not. I'm hoping I can watch some episodes. I'm going to watch it in order. I'm not just going to jump into Vanderbilt.
Same.
I really want to watch the whole thing. So we have been absolutely slammed with fall camp coverage. That's why I wanted to point that out early that Trevor has been at all 6 days. We are also both continuing to work day jobs on top of that. Producing articles, joining as guests on podcasts for myself. It's just been a lot. So
it's been a crazy
week.
week.
Not been a lot of time for fun activities as of late, and it will continue to be crazy through football season, I'm sure, but especially through fall camp. But it has all been worth it. I will 100% say that, and we can't wait to continue covering Vanderbilt football fall camp. So, Trevor, I'll start it off because we're going to jump into the defensive preview pretty quickly in segment one. Just overall, what has the experience been at fall camp for you?
I mean, just as somebody who loves Vanderbilt athletics, it's sort of been a fever dream in that aspect, and that like I couldn't imagine telling my 13-year-old self that like, hey, you would be able to go and watch Vanderbilt fall camp and be able to like take notes on it. So that's insane. But it also too, just as a football fan, it's nice to go and to see football, even if it's in a practice format, because I feel like for me personally, this has been maybe the longest football offseason that I can remember, or it's felt like that. But fall camp has been awesome. Every time Vandy Comms leads me through Magoogan to the football facility, I stop and I just look around, and they're like, "What are you stopping for? Come on!" I'm like, I'm taking everything in. I was walking by. I was walking with Elena Morris, and they had a photo of the Vandy students. And I go, "Elena, you know what that game was from?" She goes, "No." I go, "This was taken in the student section during the 2013 Ole Miss game. I know it because they were all in black and they were wearing the green dot stickers." I'm like, "I know that game." Vandy Comms goes, "That's very impressive. You knew that."
It's impressive, obsessive. That's what we are here at TDR. But I want to shout out early an interview that you did with Vanderbilt linebacker coach / co-defensive coordinator Nick Lazinski, a TDR exclusive that was posted to our YouTube channel. If you have not given that a listen yet, you definitely need to go to our YouTube channel, the Door Reports YouTube channel, and give that one a listen and a watch, because that was an incredible job, Trevor. I'll say it because you said it, and I fully believe it after watching that interview 3 times. Some of your best work.
That as soon as
your best work,
and it wasn't my best work because of me. It's my best work because of my boy, Coach Lazinski. That guy rules. Finally, the link up of the century. Hack Squad X Nick Lazinski. Years. Tweets in the making. He was awesome. Just getting to watch him like nerd out, especially whenever he was like going through Nick Rinaldi, and he's like, he started at these 12 different positions just as like a football guy in a fan. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's just like giving me this for free. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely great interview. Check that out on YouTube. We have also been posting Vanderbilt's media availability post-fall camp as well. So check that out on our YouTube channel, a new addition to the TDR universe. We have a lot to get to on episode 327, including the full Vanderbilt defensive roster preview in segment 1. But before we get into segment 1, we are now a part of the On3 Publisher Network. Visit thedoreport.com today and subscribe to a monthly or annual premium membership and support TDR to access premium content and our premium message board. Also, right now, if you sign up for an annual membership for just $1 today, you also get a year-long membership to The Athletic. That is a huge addition on top of what you already get with the Door Reports coverage behind closed doors. On3 is also continuing to grow their national analyst coverage, and I think it's just loaded. It's untouched right now. They just added Josh Pate. It is untouched. Brett McMurphy, Ari Wasserman, Pete Nakos, Josh Pate. I'm missing names, I'm sure, but it is untouched. So make sure to go and subscribe, support TDR, but also you just get incredible coverage. If you're just a football fan, make sure to subscribe through our site. but you will get access to all the premium content out there that On3 puts out. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Door Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and a review on iTunes or Spotify. It's now time for segment 1.
You're not getting it. It's not clocking to you. It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, is it?
Welcome back into episode 327 of The Door Report, and welcome into segment 1. We are officially in August. It is officially time for the Vanderbilt football roster preview for 2025, and we are starting on the defensive side of the ball. Before I get into the 2024 stats, to add some context to when we're talking about this defense, there is a big change at the head of the snake of Vanderbilt's defense. Head coach Clark Lee is no longer the defensive coordinator. He's now resuming his traditional role as the head coach. Steve Gregory and Nick Lazinski have been, well, it's really Steve Gregory is the defensive coordinator, and then Nick Lazinski is the co-defensive coordinator. So that's a big change. Now, Clark Lee was asked about that, I believe, in day 1 of fall camp, and he basically said that nothing's really changing. The last 6 or so games of the season, Steve Gregory was the acting defensive coordinator. Clark Lee is still in all the rooms, still in all the meetings, still planning, the weekly game plan with everybody. So it's not going to be a dramatic change that's super noticeable to everybody out there. It's just a big change internally for the players during fall camp, and a big change for Clark Lee getting to resume the CEO role of head coach a little bit more. Now, he's still very involved with the defense, as you would expect from a former defensive coordinator. He's going to be more involved with the defense, just as a former offensive coordinator. He's going to be a lot more heavily involved with the offense. So that's all still happening, but I just had to get that out there early because that has gotten attention. I think Vanderbilt fans are very aware of that, or most Vanderbilt fans are. I'm not sure nationally or across the SEC that people are really aware of that. That's not a huge change, but it is certainly a change.
Yeah, and I was made aware of the Stephen Gregory calling plays last year around the LSU game, and we sat on it, so we knew about it. It's like you said, it's not a real huge change. Fun fact about Steve Gregory, though, are you familiar with the famous NFL play known as the butt fumble?
I am.
Do you
I'm
know
quite
who
familiar.
recovered the butt fumble? Stephen Gregory.
Really?
He was a New England Patriot. He is the one who recovered the butt fumble from Mark Sanchez. Fun fact for all of you.
That is a nice stat pull there, Trevor. Let's get into the 2024 stats. So we're going to start with the defensive line. That's going to be our first position that we are previewing. So I'm going to start out reading stats that relate to the overall defense, and then I will get into stats that involve the run game. Then we will go through the defensive line and the linebacker group. And then I will go into passing stats of the 2024 season. Then we will get into the secondary. So starting off, Vanderbilt's defense last year, I'm just going to put it frankly, was not good. Not good. Statistically, they were improved from the 2023 season. Improved does not mean good. And as far as pass coverage goes, they were not improved at all. So getting to yards given up per game, Vanderbilt gave up 401.9 per game. That was 86th in the country. Even worse, yards per play. Vanderbilt gave up 6.3 yards per play. That is 110th in the country. Third down conversion percentage. Vanderbilt almost allowed a 50% conversion rate from their opponents, 49.67% conversion rate. That is 131st in the country. Only 2 teams in the entire country allowed above 50%. Those teams are Purdue and Nevada. Now, this is where it gets a little interesting and why I'm pulling out the yards per play. Opponent time of possession was 28 minutes and 57 seconds. That is 41st in the country. I want to reiterate that is not because of the goodness. That's not the right word, but not because of how well the defense played. That was because of how good the offensive side of the ball was at ball control and controlling the pace of play of the game. So that benefited Vanderbilt's defense quite a bit last year and made the defense seem, in the eyes of fans, like it was more improved than it actually was statistically. Vanderbilt gave up 149.2 rushing yards per game. That's 57th in the country. Very solid, very respectable there. Vanderbilt rush yards per attempt, however, was 4.5 yards per attempt, 76th in the country. Vanderbilt also had 2 sacks per game. That's 60th in the country. I'm just going to run through all the stats. Turnover margin. This was largely because the offense did not turn the ball over. This is not because Vanderbilt forced a ton of turnovers. Vanderbilt was plus 0.6 in turnover margin. That is actually 24th in the country. So really damn good. Need to see that maintained into the 2025 season if Vanderbilt wants to have a successful campaign. Vanderbilt had 0.7 interceptions per game, 92nd in the country, 1.1 forced fumbles per game, 79th in the country. Overall takeaways per game, 1.2, 96th in the country. Getting to passing stats, opponent completion percentage. Vanderbilt was the worst team in the country giving up opponent completion percentage. Opponents completed over 75% of their passes against Vanderbilt. That is basically going against air. That's atrocious. So there is only room to go up when it comes to, literally only room to improve when it comes to pass defense. Vanderbilt gave up 252.8 passing yards per game. That is 111th in the country. Pass yards per attempt was even worse. Vanderbilt gave up almost 9 yards per pass attempt last season. Not pass completion, per pass attempt. 9 yards, 8.9 yards, 126th in the country. I read all of those stats not to dishearten Vanderbilt fans necessarily, but to reiterate, you're going to hear the term improve, take a step forward a lot from me and Trevor. That does not mean that Vanderbilt is going to become an elite defensive unit or even a good defensive unit. If this Vanderbilt team can just be an average defensive unit with how this offense plays and controls time of possession, that's going to win Vanderbilt a lot of football games. So when we are saying take a step forward, that does not mean we think this Vanderbilt defense is going to well, I'm speaking for me, not meaning to speak for you. That does not mean that I think this Vanderbilt defense is going to skyrocket into a top 25 unit in the country. That's not what I mean.
Yeah.
But I think they can improve on those horrible stats that you saw last season. And we will get into why that is. I think a large portion of that, and we were talking about this beforehand, and we'll dig into this more, was injuries. This team, by the end of the season, and even at the beginning of the season, was ravaged with injuries. And Trevor, you said it at one point in the season, they had 4 defensive backs or 4 corners. That's going to be brutal to do anything when you have 4 active cornerbacks playing on your roster. So there is a lot of room for improvement. I just want to keep reiterating that. We will get to the first position group here. That is defensive line. The most movement of any position group on this entire defense. The defensive line on the way out. Aeneas DeCosmo, probably the second biggest loss on that defensive line. I'll get to the first biggest loss after this. Lost to graduation, 23 tackles last season, 1.5 sacks. I believe he's dealing with injuries a decent amount of the season. Ted Gregor, am I pronouncing that right?
Ted Gregory.
Gregory, he has moved to the offensive side of the ball. He is now an offensive lineman, moving from defensive line to offensive line. And then the biggest loss for this Vanderbilt defensive line, Demarion Thomas, a guy that looked like he was poised to take a big step forward and really be the centerpiece of that Vanderbilt interior defensive line. He decided to transfer to Oklahoma State, got the bag for himself, whatever. Vanderbilt wasn't willing to pay him what Oklahoma State was willing to pay him. So that is a big loss to this defensive line. I don't just want to graze over that. And then Vanderbilt also, you can call it in quotes, lost Devin Lee, who transferred to USF after last season. So that's the out. And Trevor, you can jump in at any time if I'm forgetting anybody. On the inside of things, Vanderbilt brought in Mason Nelson from Western Michigan. They brought in Aaron Bryant from Texas, brought in Jalen Stone from SEMO, and I'm going to butcher this name, brought in Terry and Nwuzubu Azila.
That's how we haven't gotten any pronunciation from Vanderbilt, but I've been saying it as Azealia.
Yeah, transferring from UNC, a guy that committed.
Wake Forest.
Was it Wake Forest?
Wake Forest.
Oh, my bad. Transferred in from Wake Forest, and then Joshua Singh, a BYU transfer. So that's the inside of things. But really, it's the retained talent that I think sticks out for this Vanderbilt defensive line. The D-line, and we'll get to the linebacking group, was not the weakness of this defense last season. Granted, you want to see more rush to the quarterback. You want to see more consistent pressure. You want to see more consistent run stopping. But I read off the stats. The run defense and rush defense was not the problem with this defense overall. Can it improve? Absolutely. Do we expect it to improve? I do. But on that defensive line, as I make sure I don't forget any names here, Vanderbilt returns Issa Wataha, 6'7", 310-pound guy on the interior. 320-pound guy on the interior. My bad. I'm going off the dome here.
I was fixing to say, well, I got the updated weights right here.
Vanderbilt also returns from injury former MTSU transfer Zaylen Wood, who at the beginning of the season pretty much looked like the best defensive lineman Vanderbilt had at the beginning of the year. He's looked very good in fall camp as well. Simeon Boulware has been out. He didn't really play much last year either. Glenn Seabrooks on the interior, another beefy boy on the interior, 6'3", 349 pounds, a lot of beef. Getting to more players, Bradley Mann, number 94, 6'6", 308, is the guy on this roster that when you see him standing next to Issa Wataha is basically the guy that rivals him in size. If Bradley Mann can stay healthy, he can be a real contributor in my eyes. Vanderbilt also, well, that's all for the defensive line. And Corday Sidnor, but that's kind of an edge, right?
As well as Linus Zunk. You brought in, obviously you mentioned Jalen Stone, freshman Nikhil Jefferson, also at 330. Hayden Bray, you mentioned, and Terry. Yeah. What really sticks out to me in terms of the offensive line, and I wrote this down. Defensive line. And I wrote this down. We have the updated weights here. Vanderbilt has, and I'm going to read it off to you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Vanderbilt has 8 defensive linemen over 300 pounds. And this is a question that we were discussing on the board. When was the last time? I don't think ever in my lifetime, and if not in my lifetime, I don't think ever, that Vanderbilt has had this many 300-pound defensive linemen on the team. And even whenever you look at somebody like Zaylen Wood's not a light boy. He's 280. A lot of size for this Vanderbilt defensive front. Really, really impressive. Like you said, Issa Wataha put on some weight. Glenn Seabrooks put on some weight. Mason Nelson, who whenever we get into the defensive line, I think has had a sneaky good fall camp so far. The defensive line is very fascinating to me. The defensive line is where it all starts on Vanderbilt's defense. And traditionally, the defensive line in Vanderpast has not been good.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been good, especially getting to the quarterback and just being able to stand up to SEC defense or offensive lines. And specifically when you get later in the year, 1 or 2 guys go down with injuries and you're just sunk. I don't think this defensive line is that this season. They have serious depth. Trevor read off how much size they have. Some people would point out, is it a good thing to be that heavy? I think absolutely on the defensive line, because the guys crashing, they have athleticism at the edge, athleticism in their linebacker group. They have hard hitting and tackling safeties in CJ Hurd and Marlon Sewell. So the defensive line just needs to be able to stand up to these beefy offensive lines. This is not like in 2023 when we were all talking about how heavy this Vanderbilt offensive line was. And then you got into the games and you realized, oh shit, they're slow. They're really slow. That is not what we have seen out of the Vanderbilt defensive line through fall camp. The number one standout, Trevor, you've brought it up over and over. I'll bring it up here. Corday Sidnor looks outstanding. Mm-hmm.
He looks like he's truly ready to take that next step if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, and I've like Will said, I've been to all fall camps, and he's easily been my number one player in both sides of the ball, just overall in practices. You want to talk about a guy that has been disruptive, whether it's been in one-on-ones or whether they've gone head-to-head as groups, is Corday Sidnor looks like he has taken a serious step forward. There's a lot of times where he's kind of unguardable, really. He has been incredibly impressive. Good burst off the line. He's quick off the line. I don't know if that's something they worked on. I need to ask about that, but just his burst off the line, really, really good first step. He's a monster on the interior. He's really, really impressive.
Yeah, and then I'll add in, because we've talked about it, or I've talked about it specifically, getting Zaylen Wood back cannot be overstated.
He's somebody who I thought has had a couple really, really good practices, somebody that looks good, somebody that looks healthy. And I'm glad you brought him up, because last year during the Virginia Tech game, Zaylen Wood, you can make the argument, was the best player on that defensive front. And he was playing with Corday. And Zaylen Wood was an absolute game wrecker. And so that's somebody that Vanderbilt also gets back, somebody that I think has shown a lot of pop this fall camp as well. Looks healthy, looks good. I think what he does really, really well, and this is what I've noticed, he's 6 foot, so he's a little bit on the shorter side. But man, dude, can he get under dudes and like leverage them? And it's like a sight to see, just like him using that leverage and just moving somebody. It's really, really impressive. I think he's been really nice as well.
Yeah, and then a guy that gets a lot of talk every year, it feels like we have a hype train about how he looks physically, is Issa Wataha. He looks good coming off the bus, but really outside of just, and he gets pushed around a little bit. It's what we've seen even at his size. Do you think Issa, and it doesn't have, we can be honest here, do you think Issa Wataha is going to take that step forward that Vanderbilt fans have been looking for years?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a question that I've had. I know Clark Lee, somebody asked him in media in terms of his NFL draft ability, and Clark Lee said that he's draftable right now. And I do agree just on his measurements. I mean, 6'7", 320 pounds. Even if he has a bad season, somebody's going to pick him up because you cannot pass on a guy like that. What I want to see from Issa Wataha this year, I know he's good in the run game, and that's sort of his strength. I think in this modern era of not just college football, but football in general, you have to pressure the quarterback from the interior. You have to collapse the pocket from the interior. A lot of NFL quarterbacks talk about it. They're like, edge rushers are fine. They're like, they scare them, but they're not like super worried about edge rushers. NFL quarterbacks have gone on record and says nothing freaks them out more and pressures them more than when the pocket collapses from the interior. So I think that's something that Vanderbilt has to capitalize on this year. Can Issa Wataha do it? I don't know if you're going to get that answer during fall camp. I think that is an answer that you're probably going to come to after watching some football, and it's November. I think that's whenever you're going to have your sample size, whenever you get real snaps under his belt and see him in real games. I don't know. I hate that's a cop-out answer, but like
it's how I feel as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read and go through the premium message board questions. There are some that are more general questions that we'll get on after the TDR cocktail break, but there are a few that apply specifically to position groups.
Now, and this is I should have asked this before we even started. We've talked a lot about the interior defensive line. Do we want to talk about the Razor as well? Are we going to lump in the Razor?
That's going to go next.
Perfect. Okay, okay.
That'll be right after this question from Vandy Fan. Says, who do y'all see as the 3rd, 4th, and 5th interior defensive line guys, assuming Issa and Glenn are 1st and 2nd, and Zaylen is playing outside?
I'm going to go Mason Nelson. I really like Mason Nelson. Aaron Bryant. Hayden Bray.
Okay. I would go Mason Nelson, Aaron Bryant. I think those are the two that have looked the best through spring and through what I have been able to see during fall camp.
Mm-hmm.
We're not commenting on anything we've seen actual rotation-wise.
No.
At this point, it's way too early. This is purely our conjecture. This is not based on anything we've seen.
This is just a guess what we'll see come Charleston Southern.
And I would also add in one of these two. This might be a cop-out. I can see Bradley Mann contributing in that capacity.
If he stays healthy.
If he stays healthy. Bradley Mann could be really that 3rd guy if he stays healthy. But I'm going to go with Jalen Stone. Not that I've seen anything necessarily that sticks out. I just think he's experienced. He has kind of the size at 6'2", 306. I think he has potential to be that 5th guy in the defensive line. But I really do. High is the wrong word. I'm pleasantly surprised with what I have seen out of Mason Nelson and Aaron Bryant so far.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a good way to put it.
Getting to the other part of this defensive line, which is edge rusher. On the way out, Darren Agu transferred to New Mexico. I'm just going to say it.
Addition by subtraction.
Oh, yeah. Overall, a guy that just always had the physical capabilities and just never actually put it together on Saturdays. Every year that he was at Vanderbilt, it felt like you were saying, this is the year Darren Agu is going to have a breakout season. And we were saying last year, man, he looks big. And turns out he put on weight and lost all of his explosiveness.
Mm-hmm.
So he's at New Mexico, transferred to New Mexico for a reason. No offense to the Lobos. And in for Vanderbilt, Keanu Coote, a guy that I haven't personally seen anything from in fall camp that has really stuck out for me. But a guy with a ton of natural talent. When you talk to players on the defensive line, a big fan of what he can do. Very athletic, very explosive, very bendy, to take a quote from Corday Sidnor, a former 5-star transfer in from Alabama. Other than that, what Vanderbilt has returning on the edge, Miles Capers. That's the main name here. Miles Capers noticeably bulked up from where he was last season.
He looks good.
Looks good. I don't mean bulked up how
good.
Darren Agu bulked up. Looks bulked up with like 20 more pounds of muscle.
He looks
on him.
strong.
Miles Capers and Keanu Coote on the edge could be a dynamic combo of guys on the edge with this defensive line. Mason Carter, also a guy that you could see getting, a few reps here and there. A sophomore, 6'5", 243. Anything I'm missing there?
Mason Carter, I think in terms of body composition, looks really, really good as well. That's another guy that over this offseason put on a lot of size. Shout out to Robert Steiner, man. He's working those dudes. Put on a good bit of size.
Yeah, overall, the defensive line to me looks like an SEC defensive line. I'm not saying they look like a top-tier SEC defensive line necessarily, but they look like a middle-of-the-pack SEC defensive line, without a doubt.
Totally agree with that. I think that's a really, really, really good assessment of them. I also want to note before we continue on,
Which is a big step up.
Yes, absolutely. And historically, I know you're a little bit more bullish on the historic context of the Vanderbilt defensive line than I am, but we agree for the most part. Vanderbilt's never really had, in terms of a cohesive unit, they've never really had that. I do want to note, I am a Keanu Coote truther. I really like the pickup. One thing that I was super worried about whenever he came in, he was light in the britches. I thought he was small at Alabama. I thought he needed to add size. That was sort of my big question mark in the spring and in the summer is, can Keanu Coote put on weight? Can he fill out that frame? And he has. He looks good, 252 pounds, 6'4". I do agree, though. I need to see more out of him. I would like to see more out of him.
He hasn't popped in the way that I thought he would. I just expected him to look in a way. They obviously play slightly different positions. I expected him to pop in the way Sidnor and Zaylen Wood have. That you notice Sidnor and Zaylen Wood. They make a few plays every time I've been that just make you go, damn.
Yeah.
Damn. And apparently I missed Sidnor's best day as well.
Oh, dude, today's Wednesday. No, today's Tuesday. Yesterday, I mean, I was getting excited in the balcony. I had to be like, dude, chill out. Like, now's not the place. But I was like, look at that boy go.
So we will now go to the linebacker room. I kind of have this out of order on accident in my notes here. But linebacker room, we're going to discuss it, but the in and out portion is nothing. There is no in and out portion of this linebacker room. You don't get to say this often. Literally everything is back from that linebacker group, which was the strongest position on the defense last season. It will continue to be the strongest position. I am confident in saying that this is the best group of linebackers Vanderbilt has had that I can remember or think of right now off the top of my head. As a group, individually, they've had better individual linebackers, but as a group, as a linebacker room, damn, this is a talented bunch.
And we talked about the defensive line, saying that we don't think like they're going to be like what we think would be a middle of the pack defensive line, which for Vanderbilt standards will be good.
I would put them like 10,
yeah.
10 out of 16.
Yeah, but what I've seen from this linebacker group, I think they are going to be an above average SEC group. I believe that. I really, really believe that. We'll go ahead and do you want to go through the guys real quick before I'm like jacked about football being back. I just want to talk about the boys.
Let's get to that linebacker room. So I think most fans that are listening to this are familiar with the names, but Vanderbilt has returning as the main guys: Langston Patterson, Brian Longwell, who has made a number change from number 4 to number 11. So just throwing that out there for people who are a little confused. There have been quite a few I'll call them odd number changes, like guys that were good numbers already.
It's been, yeah.
That like slightly changed, and we'll get into that with the defensive back group as well.
That's been where it's most been
Yeah,
confusing.
it's been so confusing.
Yeah.
But then they have Prince Collie returning, Nick Rinaldi returning, coming in as a freshman, Austin Howard. And those are the main contributors out of that linebacker group, because I don't put Ren Fontenay. Oh, Bryce Cowan as well in that linebacker group.
Yeah, well, and then in terms as well, somebody that in our interview, Nick Lazinski discussed, Jamison Curtis, a linebacker, sophomore, 6'1", 229. I thought he's had a really, really good camp thus far. I've actually been really impressed with him. Another guy he brought up, Josiah Broxton, freshman, probably not going to see the field a ton, a little bit smaller, 5'10", 225, but they really like him. I'm trying to go through and see if there's anybody else. I believe those are the guys. I believe those are the boys.
Yeah, so you have probably your main two staples in that linebacker room. It's hard for me to imagine that either of these guys are going to be de-seated. I don't want to say dethroned, but de-seated from their starting roles in Brian Longwell and Langston Patterson.
I agree.
It's hard for me to see that.
I
They are
agree.
just too damn solid in the middle. It's not that either of them do anything. They're not even the best at, maybe in run support Langston is, or crashing through gaps. But guys like Bryce Cowan are more athletic, more twitchy, longer. And guys like Nick Rinaldi, better in coverage, better side to side. But Langston and Brian Longmore are just your stereotypical interior linebackers at the Mike and Will. That's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I will add, Brian Longwell has noticeably bulked up as well. He is noticeably. He looks like you, to steal your phrase, you said it. He looks like RoboCop. He looks like he was built in a laboratory when you see him. He is the biggest linebacker they have in that room. His arms are the size of my torso.
Dude, that first fall camp, we walked on the field, and I saw Brian Longwell, and I looked at Will, and I go, holy fuck, look at Brian Longwell. Dude, and Nick Lazinski said in our interview, he had like 10 pounds of lean mass. Dude, he looks like an anime character.
It's crazy.
He looks like a Dragon Ball Z character.
He's one of those guys that all the guys, especially when it's hot during fall camp, pull up their jerseys so you can see their stomach. Brian Longwell is one of those guys that, like, he has a little bit too much fat on his stomach to have visible abs, but he still has visible abs. They're like, he is just like, bulky is the wrong word because it sounds bad. He is a unit.
He's beefy.
Yeah.
He looks, I think the best way to say it is like, damn, he looks strong.
And then I will add in, to me, what I've seen. I've only been to 50%. Trevor's been to 100%. Hate that I have to say that. Damn day job. Bryce Cowan has been the most impressive linebacker that I've seen just individually.
I think I would actually tag along with that. I think it's like we've discussed. You only got 11 guys on defense, even less for backers. He's got to see the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hate to be Lazinski, Gregory, Clark Lee, and trying to get him on the field, but it's like, it's just such a wealth of talent, and you're like, they've got to do something to get that kid on the field.
So let's actually, because I want to do this for each position. I forgot to do it for defensive line and edge. So we'll combine defensive line and edge for this.
Mm-hmm.
Who is one player on the defensive line or edge, and then we'll do it for linebackers, that you think is going to be better than people expect? And then the next half of that question is, who is one that you think is going to contribute less than people expect?
More for the defensive line. We already talked about it. Corday Sidnor. He's been the MVP of just about every practice.
I'm going Zaylen Wood, actually, not Corday Sidnor.
Okay. Yeah,
but
like
it's
that.
not because I don't think Sidnor. I am just.
You think people sort of expect that of Sidnor?
It's not even expected. I just think people have forgotten that last year, until he got injured, Zaylen Wood was the best defensive lineman.
That's a good point.
And it's just people have lost that in the shuffle because he got hurt so early. But it's like Zaylen Wood can be the difference maker. So that's mine and your Corday Sidnor. Who is one player on that defensive line that you think is going to be disappointing this season? And we're not doing this with any joy in our heart, any Vanderbilt football player listeners.
Disappointing?
There's going to be somebody.
Coot maybe, but I think like disappointing for him is getting like 4 sacks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if I had to go disappointing,
There's not really anybody that I'm like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it's such
that's a tough
strong
question.
group that I'm like, there's really like,
I would probably go Coot or Glenn Seabrooks. I can see Seabrooks not taking that step forward that people are expecting. I think a lot of people are just expecting Glenn Seabrooks to basically step in and be Demarion Thomas reincarnate. And we saw some good things from Glenn Seabrooks last year. It's just I can see him not, and then it's too obvious of an answer to say Issa because he's been a little bit disappointing every year. So that's a tough question.
I have a take on Seabrooks. If he doesn't take a step forward and he was just as good as he was last year, I think that's
Fine.
I think that's more than okay.
So getting to the linebacker group, who do you think is going, and I think we'll both have the same answer on this, it's going to pop because we just kind of talked about that, which made me kind of want to say this.
Nick Rinaldi.
So you're saying Nick Rinaldi. I'm going Cowan. I did not have him at the forefront of my mind at all, and he has stuck out so much to me during fall camp. He's 3 to 4 inches taller than the other linebackers. He gets hands on passes in a way that those guys don't, and he gets to the quarterback in a different way than those guys do. He's just a freak. As far as disappointing or non-contributor, somebody's going to get left out of that rotation. And for me, it's Prince Golly. I just think he contributed a bit last year, dealt with concussion issues prior to that. I just think he might get lost in the shuffle here. Still key to have depth in that position that's not just dropping off a cliff. But I think somebody's going to get lost, and I think it's going to be Collie.
Yeah, my guy who I think is actually going to pop, Bryce Cowan sort of feels like chalk, so that's why I'm going to stay away from that. I really like what I've seen from Nick Rinaldi. Also, another guy that's added on some good size. Nick Rinaldi is 6'3", 240 pounds now. Easily the most dynamic in terms of like what you said, sideline to sideline, hash to hash. Very versatile, as Nick Lazinski said. I think he's going to take a big step forward. And I agree with Prince Collie. And I don't think it's a knock on him necessarily. I just think that it's what you said, man. There's so much talent in that room that somebody's going to get the least amount of minutes just because at the end of the day, it's a math game. And I think whenever you do the math, I think it's probably Prince.
Yep. Getting to the star position, so safety / linebacker, that's obvious. That's Randon Fontenette. That's the story about what that. I think Randon Fontenette is going to be just like he was last year, 3-down guy, basically in there as many snaps as he can possibly handle. I think Randon Fontenette's the best defender on this entire team.
Yeah, right. Obviously, it's hard to disagree. I think Randon Fontenette probably is the best defender on the team. I think you could even make the argument that just from a pure talent perspective, I think you could make the argument that Randon Fontenette might be the most talented guy on the entire team. I really like his game. You know what you're getting with Randon Fontenette. He's another guy that if he doesn't take like a quote unquote step forward and was the same as he was last year, like that's an all SEC guy. You know what I'm saying? I will say though, Van Henton, who Clark Lee spoke about today, some guy that I've been posted on the board. I'm like, man, I really like what I'm seeing out of this kid. 6 foot 196 freshman. Don't know how much he's going to see the field. Obviously, it's like Randon's got that shit on lock. But I really like his game. Randon has just been all over.
I don't know if I'm just making this up in my head. I think Jalen Ruth is probably the backup to Randon. I could be very wrong on that.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Getting to the secondary. Now, I read off the stats beforehand. This is where shit gets hairy for the Vanderbilt defense, especially last season. This is also in the safety room where you experience the largest amount of loss. This is the safety room where we will start is basically the only part of this defense that experienced big losses as far as actual on the field contribution. CJ Taylor was Vanderbilt's 4th leading tackler last season with 64 total tackles, 2 interceptions. He is gone. DeRicky Wright, longtime contributor to this defense, 48 total tackles, 1 interception, 2 passes defensed. He is gone as well. Vanderbilt has brought in, however, I'll call this the most exciting transfer they've brought in specifically on the defensive side of the ball, because I'm very excited about some of the offensive line additions, specifically one that we will get to next episode. But I'm going to just stick with the defensive side of the ball. CJ Hurd from FAU.
You've been a big CJ Hurd guy this entire time.
I am huge on CJ Hurd. As a freshman, the reason I'm so big on CJ Hurd, I went back and watched like a 25-minute montage of CJ Hurd, basically every tackle he made during the season. He is a downhill attacking type of safety. Last season, as a freshman at FAU, had 80 tackles. 80 as a freshman. I know it's at FAU, but this guy has a nose for the ball. I am very high on CJ Hurd. Getting to the rest of the safety room, we just had an interview with him today for media availability. Team captain Marlon Sewell, kind of the veteran of that room. You know what you have in Marlon Sewell.
Mhm.
Not an incredible coverage safety, but is not afraid of contact, is going to go. He's serviceable in coverage. He's a good run-stopping safety. He's going to be in the right spot, but he's not going to do anything that's outstanding or amazing or anything like that.
I like to call him the human battering ram. Is what I like to call Marlowe, the human battering ram.
Now, I think the biggest question mark in the safety room is Dante Carter. Switched from number 21 to number 1, highly touted guy coming out of high school, contributed a little bit last season, a little bit more than I think fans expected him to contribute as a true freshman. Undersized guy, still undersized, even as a sophomore. One of the few guys that I will say does not look noticeably bigger from last season. Most of the team looks noticeably bigger. Officially, he is still 6'1", 185. I don't know if that's a big change from last season. I don't have last season's roster in front of me. He looks small. I'm a little bit afraid. We know what Dante Carter is. He's like the opposite of CJ Hurd.
Ball hawk.
He's a ball hawk. He's going to be really good in coverage. Does he have enough size to not just get bullied in the run game, in run support? I'm a little concerned about that for Dante Carter. And then also a guy that you are very high on, have been very high on, one of the freshmen that I could see seeing the field on a team that I don't think there are going to be a lot of freshmen contributing, Carson Lawrence. Another kind of consensus 4-star guy coming out of high school. Very talented, does not look like a freshman out there during fall camp. He pops off the field when you're there watching fall camp.
How long have I been raving about Carson Lawrence, and how long have I said this kid's going to be a star?
Since Vanderbilt was in the running to have his commitment.
Yeah, and you can go back and you can listen to pods and you can look at my tweets. I have been high on Carson Lawrence. I don't want to put the pressure on him, but I'm going to say it. This dude, he's going to be a star.
He's going to be a star.
He is going to be a star. I'm going to say it. Big shoes to fill. He's going to be a lot better than CJ Taylor. And CJ Taylor is like one of the Hall of Fame Vanderbilt defenders. I think if Carson Lawrence stays at Vanderbilt and stays healthy, that kid has all-time Vanderbilt Commodore written all over him.
Already 6'2", 204. He already looks ready to go. Now, the safety room has a lot of talent in it and a lot of young talent, so people are going to be fighting for playing time, but I could see him contributing as a freshman. Another guy that hasn't popped off the field isn't really the right term, but has been on the field consistently, and I've seen be in the right spot and make a decent amount of Jalen Gilbert, number 18. I don't know if he's going to see the field too much, but I can see him being one of those guys that fans are saying, wait, who's number 18? And he's on the field for a lot more snaps than people are anticipating. But that's all going to depend. If Dante Carter, CJ Hurd, and Marlon Sewell can be those guys, they're going to be the ones rotating.
You forgot a name that recently got out of the safety room. Trudell Berry.
Oh, yeah.
Who, as of the past couple of days, has been playing safety. I think that the staff views that more as his natural position. And last year, obviously, and the year before, was maybe thrusted into that cornerback room simply out of a lack of bodies. Moved him back to safety. Interested to see how he progresses there. I do want to say on
before you move on,
Go ahead.
we have a premium message board question related to exactly this player from Commodore Cam. Says, how has Trudell Berry looked at fall camp? I was high on him when we recruited him. and I still think he can be something special. Also crazy that he's already a senior.
I mean, he got to pick a safety pretty immediately. I mean, within like the first day of being a safety, he already got a pick. So, fascinating. I don't know how much he sees the field. Also, very good point. Crazy to think Trudeberry is a senior. That's bonkers. But Dante Carter, I kind of want to go back to Dante Carter. I was high on Dante Carter last year. I've been high on Dante Carter this offseason. I agree with you, though. The size at 185.
But it's not
scares
just
me.
like, I promise you also one thing. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
We're not just saying this off reading the depth chart and reading the listed roster heights and weights. This is based on what we have seen in person. He is maybe stretching it at 185.
Yeah, and I do agree with that part, but I posted this on the board, and some people kind of questioned it, and then Clark Lee came out today and was like, said, I've been very impressed with Dante Carter, and I think he's taken the biggest step forward. I think Dante Carter has had a very good camp, and I think he has been sensational in pass coverage. He's been really, 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 really good.
Let me add this caveat early because this is going to apply to the offensive preview as well. Even when they're in full pads, you're obviously not going to see the type of like full contact. You're not going to see like what CJ Hurd does so well. That's not going to be evident in fall camp because he's going to kill guys if he does what he does so well. In the same way that you're not going to see Dante Carter's flaws as heavily in camp because what his flaws might be, you're not going to see exposed. So it's not. I think Dante.
I
Carter's
agree
had
with that.
a
I
good
agree with
camp
that
so far as well. My concern is more once it's full hitting, what's that going to look like? That's my concern.
My worry is that if he's having to make tackles on a running back, then shit has hit the fan in the front seven.
Yep.
If he's having to make tackles, we got bigger fish to fry than Dante Carter's size. That's just my opinion.
It's a good point
If
as well.
he's having to go into the run blocking game, then something has went dastardly awry.
It's very true. So let's move on to I'm not going to do that question for safeties because we basically already hit on that and it's such a smaller room that who's going to impress versus who's going to do whatever. Let's actually do it.
I will say though, before we do that, it's crazy. And you brought this up today and I totally forgot. CJ Hurd is a sophomore. For some unbeknownst reason to me, until I got this depth chart at fall camp, I was like, yeah, he's like a junior, senior. No. He's got, counting this year, he's got 3 years of eligibility left. So you look at CJ Hurd, Dante Carter, who's also a sophomore, Carson Lawrence at freshman. If everything goes according to plan, Vanderbilt has a very talented safety room for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and to answer that question, we've answered for other position groups. My standout, everybody already knows, CJ Hurd. I think he's going to be a revelation for Vanderbilt fans. He's going to pop off the screen. And then I'm going to go with Dante Carter on the one that I could see. I don't expect him to disappoint. That's not what I expect, but he's the one I can see most likely from the expectations that are outside of the program. And in fans' minds, I could see him be the one that's not on the field quite as much as you expect. A lot more Marlon Sewell on the field. And I'm not going to say Marlon Sewell because you know what you're getting in Marlon Sewell. I mean, he's going to be what he is. He is a returning team captain. So it's not that I have any negatives on this safety room necessarily. It's actually that and the linebacker group are the two that I'm highest on this defensive side of the ball. But CJ Hurd is the one that I'm just fully expecting to be a star out there. And I'm going to be very disappointed if he's not.
See, that's fascinating how like we disagree. Because like my guys, I think Dante Carter is going to be that guy. I think Dante Carter. Also, to my runner-up, I just don't know how much he's going to see the field. I think I said it earlier. I've said it on pods for the past 6 months. I've said it on Twitter. Carson Lawrence is going to be a star. Carson Lawrence is going to be a star for Vanderbilt.
Getting to the biggest question mark, I personally think, on this entire roster, the cornerback room. I read off the stats. However, there is a caveat to those stats. Vanderbilt had 2 transfer cornerbacks that were both out. One due to severe personal health issues, one due to a torn Achilles, Mark Davis and Marlon Jones. Those guys were expected to be very key contributors to this Vanderbilt cornerback room, and they were just kind of snatched away from the staff right before the season started. They are both back. specifically Marlon Jones. Mark Davis, as Clark Lee said,
Had like a knee scope.
yeah, like a knee scope, so
But-
he hasn't been practicing.
But what Clark Lee did say is he expects him to be ready for the home opener.
Yeah, so I have those guys marked on the inside, even on the inside of things, even though they're not technically new additions. They're new additions for Vanderbilt fans to actually see contributing on the field on Saturdays. Vanderbilt also brought in Tennessee transfer Jordan Matthews, who is now number 6, and returning Colby Taylor, who was number 6 last year, is now number 3.
And Martell Heights number 4, which
And Martell
fans
Heights
should
number
be.
4. But I'm right, Jordan Matthews is 6. Right?
Jordan Matthews is 6. That is correct. It is. I keep thinking that Jordan Matthews is 14, and I'm like, no, that's clearly Jalen Ruth. Jordan Matthews doesn't have that much weight. But yeah, and I'm glad
And then
you
I do
brought
have
up
to
the
add
numbers. Go
out
ahead.
Tyson Russell.
Yeah, that's the only guy.
Yep.
I do think it's interesting that you brought up numbers, guys that changed from numbers that like actually had good numbers. I thought Colby Taylor looked, and this is going to sound so weird, but like, you know, that certain dudes look great in certain numbers. That's just ball. I thought Colby Taylor looked great in the number 6 last year. I thought the 6 fit him very well. Now number 3. We'll talk about Colby Taylor more, but in terms of the numbers, I thought he was more of a 6 than a 3 for me personally.
The cornerback room, like we said with the statistics, cannot get worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think they are going to take a step forward this year. I do think they're going to take a step forward this year. How big of a step forward is the $1 million question right now for this Vanderbilt defense? So far, I've really liked what I've seen out of Marlon Jones. I think Colby Taylor has actually looked really good from what I've seen.
Yeah, he's had a really good camp, kept his head on straight. He's looked awesome. I've been really impressed with like his attitude at camp.
I think Jordan Matthews has looked very serviceable in the role that he's going to be taking. Yeah, so I think the secondary has potential to be much improved. Now, what does much improved mean? In those stats I read off where Vanderbilt's sitting 130th in the country, I think Vanderbilt could be sitting more 70th in the country. And that would be all the difference in the world for this team if they can be sitting there and that front 7 can take a step forward from being 50th to 70th in run defense to being 30th to 50th. If they can all take that step forward, then this defense is going to be vastly improved. That's a big if, but they have the depth and talent in place that they just did not have last year, specifically depth. They just had no depth in the secondary last season. They actually have a little bit of that this year.
I'll ask you too, and I know we're talking, and this involves the secondary, but I want to get your opinion on this. If the defensive line takes a step forward in terms of pressuring the quarterback, but the cornerbacks only take like maybe a tiny step forward, do you think that sort of offsets each other and maybe makes them look better than what they are? Does that make sense? And vice versa, if the cornerbacks take a step forward, coverage sacks, does that?
Yeah, it's unison. It's in unison.
Yeah.
So if one improves, the other improves. You can only guard for so long is a very common phrase. So some of the issues with the secondary, the coverage was obviously bad. You don't complete over 75% of your passes as the opponent to Vanderbilt if the coverage is just not good from the outset. But also some of that is Vanderbilt also could not get pressure consistently. And getting pressure consistently allows the corners to look better as well. So I think it's a unison thing.
Yeah.
Like we said, I expect personally this defense to take a pretty decent sized step forward from where they were last year. Why I added the stats at the beginning is that decent sized step forward does not mean an elite defense, does not mean a good SEC defense. It means maybe somewhere sitting like the 10th defense in the SEC when you look at overall stats. That's what I view as a good size step forward because last year they were sitting at the bottom.
I would agree with that.
So that's my expectations for this defense. There's too many things to improve to specifically say these are the benchmarks that I want to see. I think turnovers will come more often if you get more pressure on the quarterback. I think they have potential to get more pressure on the quarterback. They have undeniable talent in the linebacker room. They have undeniable talent with Randon Fontenette. I think what they've done in the transfer portal in the safety room with the returning talent they have is enough to replace the 2 contributors they lost last season. And then just getting 2 key guys back from injury or health issues last season is so huge. Marlon Jones was probably going to be CB2 last year, and I still think he has that opportunity this year, even though I don't know what we're allowed to say.
Whenever he was brought in last year, amongst fans and insiders, it was basically like a foregone conclusion he was going to be the cornerback opposite Martell.
Yeah, so I think he's huge to have back. I think Colby Taylor, if he can keep his head on straight with another year of experience, he's an elitely gifted athlete physically at that cornerback position. Jordan Matthews is another great depth piece they've just not had in the past. And right now we have no idea what Mark Davis is. He's another guy the staff was high on, and we just haven't been able to see him in fall camp so far.
Yeah, and before we go to break, I want to bring up somebody that you just mentioned, Colby Taylor, in terms of like his physical ability. A little plug. If you, as Will mentioned earlier, if you sign up with the door report on On3, you can get a sub to the New York Times Athletic. If you get a sub to the New York Times Athletic, you can read Bruce Feldman's the freak list, which he does every year, and he goes through and he gives his like top, I think, top 50 or top 100 freaks in all of college football, according to measurements, athletic ability, so on and so forth. Just freaks of nature. For the 3rd year in a row, Colby Taylor has made Bruce Feldman's the freaks list.
He is a freak.
He is a freak.
He is a freak athlete. But Trevor, you forgot one thing as we now have kind of gone through the defense, special teams. We're going to throw that into the defensive side of the preview as well. This will be pretty quick. Most Vanderbilt fans know exactly what they have in Brock Taylor.
He's automatic.
Nominated for the Lou Groza Award given to the best kicker in the country, one of 30 kickers on that list. Last year, Brock Taylor went 18 of 21 overall, 85% on field goal attempts, tied for 27th in the country. But also from distance, he was quite impressive. 5 of 6 from 50-plus yards. That is the 8th most made 50-plus yard kicks in the country during 2024.
Most in Vanderbilt history as well, I believe.
He was also 4 of 5 from 40 to 49 yards, 5 of 6 from 30 to 39 yards, and 4 of 4 on kicks from 20 to 29. He did miss 1 extra point, and we all remember what game that was. The Alabama game.
I will say, though,
it didn't end up mattering, but I remember sitting in the stands when he missed that extra point going, that's going to be the difference. That's why Vanderbilt's going to lose this game, and it's going to be hilarious. But where Brock Taylor, and we love Brock Taylor, he's very talented kicker. He has to come through in the clutch. He has to come through in the clutch. One of those misses was against Missouri in overtime and cost Vanderbilt that game. As he's matured, he has to come through in the clutch. We know what he's capable of, and I think another year of maturation is going to help him out with that.
Hey, all I got to say is nothing but respect for my president, Rocket Launcher. Nothing but respect for my president.
We're big fans of Brock Taylor on this podcast, and he's looked very good in the limited amount we've seen him in fall camp.
Close personal friend of the pod, Brock Taylor, Rocket Launcher.
Vanderbilt also has a new punter on the roster, and that is Nick Haberer, a transfer from Washington State. Everything I've seen from Haberer, he's just another one. Plug him in, stud. He's going to be a fantastic punter for Vanderbilt. And then a new long snapper for Vanderbilt, a transfer in, Durham Harris, should be unnoticeable. We love our boy Julian Ashby, friend of the pod, now with the Patriots.
We love our boy Wesley Schilling.
Yep. But a long snapper is my favorite thing to use this quote on. You never even think about him until you don't have a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's the only thing, and then you're thinking about it constantly. So I think Durham Harris getting a graduate transfer, that's a good thing. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Everything we've seen has been good. But that is a position that you don't even do it. You don't even talk about it in a preview. But sometimes in a season recap, you're talking about it. So I just had to bring that up as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is it for the defensive / special teams preview. Is there
kick returner?
else? We'll say we can do that now.
This Martell.
Yeah.
I mean,
The one-
breaking news.
Yeah, Martell's going to be returning punts. Dog at that. We saw what he's capable of last year. Explosive playmaking ability out of that punt returner position that Vanderbilt just hasn't. They've been lacking for many years. They used to be a thing Vanderbilt consistently had, and they've been lacking it. Kickoff return is going to be interesting. Do they keep Junior Sherrill back there?
I think since he's your wide receiver one, I personally would not.
I would not either, even though Junior is incredible at that position. It'll be interesting to see what happens with kick return. We have not really been able to evaluate any of that based on what we've seen. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch during fall camp and during the first game against Charleston Southern.
I'm just like, dude, just kick return. I know he took one back against Tennessee, but like, just knee it every single time. You know what? I'm just knee it every single time. Take the 25.
Yep. I'm kind of that opinion a lot of times as well. But anything else you want to add on defense here?
No, sir.
All right. Everybody out there, grab yourself a cold one. We are going to go to premium message board questions after this. So everybody out there, grab yourself a cold one, and we will be right back after the TDR cocktail break. Welcome back from the TDR cocktail break, and welcome back into episode 327. Trevor just cracked open a nice ice cold Diet Coke right when we got started here. How was that crispy boy?
So crispy.
So all we have after the TDR cocktail break in segment 2 is just premium message board questions. So we've already read off a few of them. I think we've already also answered some of these questions during our defensive preview, but we're going to go through and read what we have remaining and see what we have to answer. So hopefully a quick segment 2 here on an already beefy episode of the Door Report. First question we have up that has not already been answered is from Georgia Door. Says, for myself and other out-of-state fans who are not able to regularly attend games, what is one home game this season that you would recommend attending above all others?
Yeah, I saw this. I already commented. I'm going to say Auburn. I think it's a winnable game for Vanderbilt. I think the narrative that Diego Pavia is going to be the man that puts Hugh Freeze into a body bag is enough for that. Additionally, it's homecoming. And so that'll be a fun game. So I would say Auburn.
So I want to say Auburn or an SEC opponent or something like that. But personally, Miller, I was already going to answer this. You don't need to keep pointing. So this was my legitimate answer was Georgia State. If you're coming from out of state, you want to attend one game. You want it to be a game that you're going to witness a win, almost guaranteed. Now, I think that they have a good chance of beating Auburn, and it is homecoming, and all of those things do hold true because that's my initial thought to answer that. Georgia State is going to be 90 to 95% Vanderbilt fans. That team is going to be so fired up to beat the shit out of the Georgia State team that almost ruined their season last year. That is the game you should go to. It's going to be a celebration is the wrong word. It is going to be a Vanderbilt fan base out for blood.
Retribution.
That is a revenge game of all revenge games. Vanderbilt never should have lost that game last season. They were unfocused going into it. You could see it on the field when I was there at the game. They were not focused in pregame warmups. They got a little too big for their britches, and they lost to Georgia State. So I would recommend that game. That's going to be a fun one. I think they're going to beat the hell out of them.
That's going to be a fun game for you too, and Miller as well, who is off camera, as two members of TDR who were at that game. And I was not there, but I can say that game broke Will.
Almost.
It did break Miller. So Miller, don't come on camera. Don't take my mic. Miller's already threatened to take the microphones and started mutiny. But Miller was so upset after that.
That's why he's not senior producer. That's why we have to keep him as a junior producer and Phoebe's senior
I
producer.
love this guy. Miller was so upset. He texted us like 2 a.m. He's like, I'm quitting tailgating. I'm never doing it again. I'm never going to Vanderbilt ever again.
Do you know how upset you would have actually been if you quit tailgating and then they beat Alabama?
Yeah.
So doors never
He just
die,
said he didn't
baby.
watch the Missouri game, so he was boycotting. It did. That game broke Miller.
All right, going on to the next question we have here. I think those are some good answers. If you want an SEC game, Auburn, non-SEC game, Georgia State.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Getting to the next question, says rank the top 5 NFL prospects on the defense. And then goes on to say, this is Alex Kurbagov, our great writer, says mine are number 1 height, number 2 Rando. He's a tweener, which bumps his stock down. 3 Sidnor, who could be 2 by the end of the year. 4 Wataha, 5 Rinaldi. Been so long since Vandy football has had any draft talk. It feels weird even asking that question.
So Alex had, I think I actually agree with Alex. I'm going to go 1 Martell. I'm going to go 2 Rando. I'm going to go 3 Issa. 4, I'm going to go Sidnor. And I don't think that Rinaldi's better than Longwell or Langston, but I think his game and his build transfer well to what the NFL wants in a modern linebacker. So I actually think I agree with that. Yeah, that's going to be mine.
Yeah, mine goes number 1 Martell, number 2 Randon Fontenette, very close to each other. And then there's a huge gap for me. And then I'm going to go number 3, Issa Wataha, just for the exact reason that we said. I don't know where you had him. Do you have him at 3 too?
I had him as 3 as well, yep.
Well, I thought I was going to say something different, but I didn't. You can't teach size. And Issa has literally elite top 0.01% size. You can't teach that. One team, even if it's not in the actual draft, is going to take a chance on him as a free agent because he's going to be able to stopgap that middle. Then it gets a little hazier. Probably Sidner 4, and man, this is a tough one at 5. I don't know if they really have 5 guys that are NFL talents in the future. I like Nick Rinaldi. I could see him having an NFL future just because he has so much versatility as a third down linebacker. But like you said, Longwell and Patterson, I think, are definitely more talented. I'm going to go Bryce Cowan as kind of a utilitarian third down edge rusher, linebacker kind of guy. I don't know. I don't think there are 5 NFL draft prospects on this roster. I think there are 4, and it's the 4 I just named. And then the 5th one, I'd just be throwing a name into the hat.
How do you feel about
Carson Lawrence?
How do you feel about honorable mention Colby Taylor, just at his measurables alone for a defensive back? 6'3", 190, insane length. I mean,
if Colby Taylor can keep his head on straight.
If you wanted to build a defensive back in a lab, you would make him look like Colby Taylor.
If Colby Taylor can keep his head on straight and get good reviews from the coaching staff after this season, then Colby Taylor's my number 5 and maybe bumps up to number 4. But a huge thing NFL draft evaluators and draft scouts look at is going to be what your coaching staff says about you.
Uh-huh.
And Vanderbilt's going to be honest. And Colby Taylor has had some issues. So yeah, Colby Taylor physically, I think, is definitely an honorable mention there as a guy that I think has a very high ceiling, but is not there yet. But I think there are 4 guys that have a chance at an NFL future right now. I don't think there are 5. Getting to yet another door lawyer says, in early scouting of opponents, what do you make of South Carolina? With the coaches poll dropping, I've seen some polarizing commentary. Some people very high on the Gamecocks, some people saying they're bound to regress from last year. Pavia has already talked about how big that game is. So curious to get y'all's thoughts on them as a key opponent to set the tone for the season.
South Carolina is fascinating to me. And this is something that I was actually talking to you about the other day. South Carolina, Rasul Faison, I don't know. I think I'm butchering his last name, but they call him Sewell. They're starting running back. South Carolina is in fall camp right now. He is practicing. They do not know if he will be able to play football this season or if he is going to have to sign up as a NFL free agent. We are 3 weeks away from the start of the season. They are still waiting on the NCAA to make a ruling on if their star running back can play college football this year. So that's a huge dark cloud hanging over their head, especially with as good as Rocket Sanders was last year and how he really catapulted their offense forward. South Carolina has question marks for me. I think Lenora Sellers can be a good quarterback, but more than anything, I think South Carolina has question marks because I do not believe that Shane Beamer is a good football coach. And I do not think that he will ever be the guy to have a championship level team. That's just my personal opinion. I think he's good. I don't think he's a great coach.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it doesn't matter for Vanderbilt what South Carolina's like. I agree with a lot of what you said. It doesn't matter for Vanderbilt's sake because they could roll out a bunch of fraternity guys and they're still going to beat Vanderbilt. They're cursed. I've never seen a curse like this as a Vanderbilt fan. They had a graduate assistant quarterback come in and lead a game-winning drive against Vanderbilt in what year was that? 2022. So, yeah, it doesn't matter for Vanderbilt. I will say week 1 matchup between South Carolina and Virginia Tech.
No, 2021. Sorry, 2021.
Yeah, South Carolina, Virginia Tech on Sunday, I believe, August 31st, the day after the opening weekend of college, or the day after the opening Saturday of college football. Every Vanderbilt fan needs to be tuned into every single snap of that game. That is going to be a huge game for Vanderbilt fans to watch because you're going to see both of your next opponents the next 2 weeks. So I haven't seen a lot of talk about that, but just throwing that in there. Let's see if we have any more questions. Vandy Jr. 2, he's back, says,
our boy.
Assuming the worst, we Vandy fans must always have a plan B for this occurrence. What does the AD do if the stadium is not ready by August 30th? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to say it.
I'm so sick and tired of this. Is no shot to Vandy Jr. whatsoever, but I'm so sick and tired of this question.
It is. I know the staff is tired of this question. They get asked it by media members constantly, and it's really annoying because obviously the fucking Vanderbilt football coaching staff doesn't have the answer to that question, you idiots. But the main part of that is they've sold the tickets, whether the outside is ready or not. The seats are going to be ready. That's not even a question.
Yeah.
If they have to start pulling 24 hours a day, they've sold the tickets. The seats and the inside are going to be ready. That's unquestioned. So everybody chill out. I've had concerns. I don't think all of it is going to be 100% ready. But as far as being able to sit in your seats that you have purchased, it's going to be ready. Quit asking.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this.
I think too, and what was it last year? They're like, oh, is it going to be ready? Is it going to be ready? And then lo and behold, Virginia Tech comes to town and it's so
ready.
happens to be ready. Also, too, I think the people that have those seats and those boxes aren't the type of clientele that Vanderbilt wants to piss off. So, according to Vanderbilt Communications, as of Sunday, it will be ready for the home opener per Vanderbilt Communications.
Yeah. And this is the issue I have with that question. Even if right now they secretly think it's not, they're not going to tell us.
Yeah.
And they're not going to tell you either. So it's a dumb question to continue asking. It's going to be ready. The seats are going to be ready. There's too much money on the line. They've sold the ticket.
Also, the seats are in, they don't have to install the seats.
Yes.
The seats are in place.
The seats are already installed. You could go to have people sit there basically right now. It's just not going to have the interior beautified. So it's whatever. This is an interesting question from VandyFan95 says, last year we had the Georgia State clunker. Is there a similar letdown game this year? Which one do you think it will be? It's obvious to me, Virginia Tech.
I think what he's at, is he not asking in terms of the sort of 3 cupcakes?
He is asking that. They're going to beat all of them. I would bet my bank account on it. They're going to win all 3 of those cupcake games.
I don't think this will be the case, but I'm going to go along with the question. I think Charleston Southern could be a little bit of a clanker.
No.
In terms of I think Vanderbilt, worst case scenario, wins 31-14.
I think Vanderbilt, maybe I'm too pie in the sky on this, and I have my issues with the roster. Vanderbilt has too much raw talent to be competed with by any FCS program outside of North Dakota State and the other elite programs. Just player for player, Charleston Southern is so much worse than Vanderbilt. There's no way. They're going to beat the shit out of Georgia State. I don't know a lot about Utah State. That's kind of a question mark. I'm going to go. I know it's not really with the theme of the question, but Virginia Tech on the road, week 2. Vanderbilt fans are very confident about that game. And rightfully so. You did beat them last year. Virginia Tech has less talent than they did last season. They're going to be coming off a game against South Carolina. That's a game that's make or break for the season, and I can see Vanderbilt coming out and putting up an absolute clunker and losing by multiple scores. I just can in a hostile environment. From a Virginia Tech team that likely is going to be in desperation mode coming off a loss to South Carolina, that they cannot start 0-2. Brent Pryce's job is going to be on the line. That's a very dangerous game for Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other readable questions? Not that one. JDL Cavs says, do you really think Vanderbilt can match its win total from last year? The schedule looks tough. I'm not shitting on this question. I promise I'm not. It has been a thing I've said since we started this podcast. I am so fucking tired of people talking about Vanderbilt's schedule being tough. They are in the SEC, and Vanderbilt is Vanderbilt. They are always going to have a tough schedule. Stop bringing that up. It's dumb. It's dumb. They have scheduled 3 cupcakes and a very mid-tier Power 4 opponent. The tough schedule, it's always going to be tough. It always is. Every freaking podcast I join as a guest brings it up every year, constantly. The schedule's tough this year. Yes, it's been tough for 45 years. It's always going to be tough. Do I think they can match the win total from last year of 6 wins? Yes, I do think they can win 6 games. This is a dumb question.
I think they can win 6 games as well.
The schedule looks tough, though. We're probably going to get unsubscribed from that. And that is all the questions from the premium message board questions. Sorry, that is one of my triggering questions. The schedule looks tough for Vanderbilt. No shit. Guess who else the schedule looks tough for? 15 other SEC teams. It looks pretty tough for every SEC team in the conference. It's a tough schedule in the SEC. Can we beat that through the brains, through Vanderbilt fans' brains? The SEC is a tough conference to play in. You play 8 SEC games. It's always going to be a tough schedule. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we'll get to our season prediction. I think I have them going over 6.
Yeah, we will get to our season prediction. That will be not next week, but the week after that. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really tired. I haven't slept a lot. It's been a grind through football season so far, and I'm sure I'm not going to be getting any rest anytime soon. I don't see a future in which I'm going to be well rested. I'm probably going to get more insane as we continue going, previewing this season. And wait till we get to football season. I'm going to be off my damn rocker. So get prepared, everybody out there. Trevor, anything else you want to add on episode 327? Football, baby. All right. For myself, Will Byrum, my co-host, Trevor Hulan, our junior assistant producer, Miller McKee, helping us out over there. This has been episode 327 of The Door Report, powered by 615 Collectibles.
Oh.